pranams at the lotus feet of our ever-present Swami. Sai Ram to all of you, respected elders, brothers and sisters who are all gathered here to listen to the glory of our Divine Lord. Thank you very much, the Samarpan group, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to do His Namasmarana in the presence of all of you today. I'm indeed blessed to stand in this hall. This place has been my childhood home, and I have grown up here in the presence of Swami, my Divine Father and Mother, my own parents who served Him here, my older cousins who are here today, who pointed me in this journey towards Him, and in the presence of all of you young people who will continue this journey along with all of us. My life, I can only share with you some of the lessons that were taught from childhood in Swami's presence. Swami teaching, watching my older relatives following in his teachings, and watching with alertness what happens around me. I tried to learn a few lessons that Swami was trying to teach, and I hope that by sharing that with you, it brings out one particular facet of Swami that I had known. Once when I was in Puttaparthi, and Swami had, with great infinite love, invited my family in for an interview, there was another group of youngsters with us in that group. Swami, in his very friendly, jovial way, started to ask everybody their names. What is your name? Somebody said Ramesh, somebody said Satish, somebody gave their different names. He asked me mine, though he knew me, my children. And then he asked everybody, what is my name? Everybody said Sai Baba in the room. Then he went around the room again and said, what is the meaning of your name? You said your name is Ramesh, your name is Satish, whatever the names. What is the meaning? And everybody tried to give the meaning of their names. And Swami again laughingly said, what is the meaning of my name? So everybody immediately said, it means Divine Mother and Father. Swami said, no. Somebody said Satchidananda, it means divine bliss. Swami said, no. So everybody kind of looked at each other, they didn't know what else to say. They said, we don't know. So Swami, who always loved acronyms, said, how do you spell my name? So everybody, of course, very confidently spelled S-A-I-B-A-B-A. So he said, you see, my name gives you my message. S stands for See Sai. A stands for always. And I stands for in all. See Sai, always in all. So I was sitting near his chair and I said, Swami, but what about Baba? What does that mean then? Because you can't give half a name. Very quickly he looked at my sons and the youngsters in that room and said, be aware, be alert. Be aware, be alert. And we all sort of were taken aback by that, and he gave a beautiful explanation to that. He said, you see, you have to start backwards. If you are aware of your thoughts, what are you thinking? If you are aware of your words, if you are aware of your actions, if you are alert at what you're thinking, if you're alert at what you're doing, and if you're alert at what you're saying, automatically they will all be very positive and good things, because you will not want to think bad things, you will not want to do bad things, or say bad things. So if you're aware and alert all the time, and you're aware and alert of the environment around you, if you're aware and alert to be helpful, if you're aware and alert to be kind, then automatically you will become See Sai, always in all. That is the journey. So somebody asked me to speak at another retreat in the US, and they said, can you speak about lessons learnt at the lotus feet? So I said, no, I cannot speak on that subject because we are all learning, we have not yet learnt. But I can say lessons taught by the divine. Lessons are taught, it is up to us to learn, is it not? And we are all in that process. And for me, it has been many, many small lessons that Swami has taught. I am still trying to learn slowly as I get along in this life. One of the most beautiful lessons that I learned was the fact that Swami was always present. Wherever we go, he is always with us. And he showed this in many ways. If we are aware that Swami is with us all the time, then it is very difficult to do anything that is not good. Because it's like a policeman who's following you all the time, wherever you go. When we were younger, and I'm sure my cousins will tell you, that it was not always a very happy thing, because he knew exactly what we were doing at all times. So we would get caught very easily by him when we were doing something that was not pleasant or mischievous. And we were doing something mischievous. I'll just like to share with you an incident that happened where Swami's presence was so beautifully felt by me, and a great lesson I hope I learned. When Swami asked us to move to the US, my children were young, and I was driving them to school, and the law was that children below the age of 12 cannot sit in the front seat, they have to sit in the back seat. So my children would always argue with me and saying, can we sit in the front seat, can we sit in the front seat? So I got tired of telling them, no, if the policeman sees us, he will give us a ticket, you're not allowed, the same. They were young children, they were about 6 or 7, and every time I had to drive them somewhere, this was the constant argument. So one day, I decided to make life easy for myself. So I said, no, you have to sit in the back because that seat is reserved for Swami. Swami sits there when I drive. So you have to sit in the back. So the children truly believed what I said, and after that I had no argument. They sat in the back seat and I used to go, no problem. So this happened, and after that my life became a lot more simpler. Every time we went there, they sat in the back seat, no more arguments. After almost 3 years, I came to have Swami's darshan in Puttaparthi. And I was sitting in the darshan line in Puttaparthi. I had just arrived from US. The following day, I went to Prashanthi Nilayam. And I was sitting in the line, and Swami came by me, and he asked, when did you come? I said, Swami, I came yesterday. Chala santosham, he said. And then he walked a little, maybe a couple of steps, turned back and looked at me. Front seat nadaite anni cassettes petnave. If the front seat is mine, you have put so many audio cassettes on the seat. I did not remember what I had said to my children, so I looked at him a little puzzled. Again he went and he came back. This is the divine mother and father. He came back and he said, if you want to tell your children something, you believe in it first. If you believe that I am sitting there, you are covering the seat with all the bhajan cassettes, Carnatic music cassettes, and you're telling the children the seat is mine, do you think the children will believe you? They know that you are not speaking the truth without you having told them that it is not truth. Because if it is Swami's seat, how nicely you will keep it. How beautifully you will keep it. So when you say that Swami is besides you, believe in it and only then speak it. If you don't believe it, don't tell them that, because you are giving them the wrong lesson at a very young age. He told me all this in the darshan line and I was in tears. But I came home and I thought, what a beautiful lesson that was taught to me, that when you want to say something, don't say it just to please somebody or to make your life easy or just to get away from a situation, but believe in what you say. If you don't believe in it, then wait till you believe in it. That was one of the most beautiful lessons I learnt of Swami's omnipresence. Another, I'm probably going all over the map here. I'll go back and forth in my life because, many, many years ago when I was asked to speak for the first time, Swami asked me to speak at a Satyasai regional retreat in the US. where about 1,000 people gather every year in the month of May during the Memorial Day weekend to celebrate Swami for 2.5 days. We have beautiful workshops, a lot of different programs that happens every year. And I was asked to speak there many years ago in 1996. And it is very funny that I'm standing here and saying, I think maybe I should tell you this. I had never spoken about my personal experiences anywhere. Of course, when all of us relatives and cousins got together, we all enjoyed talking about each other's experiences. But that particular time, somebody, one of our Sai Center members said, Geeta, we are having a regional retreat. Would you speak there for the people? I said, no, Swami has not given me permission to speak about my personal experiences, so I don't think I would like to do that. So they kept on insisting, no, you should speak, you talk to us. When we come to your house, you tell us so many nice, wonderful experiences. So I said, okay, let me try to see if I can get Swami's permission to do so. At that time, Swami spent most of his time here in Vrindavan, and as you just showed the video, my father used to be in close proximity with Swami. It was so nice to see that video of Swami and my father here a minute ago. So I called my father to request him to ask Swami whether it was okay for me to speak. I called, and before I could even say anything to my father said, wait, before you tell me anything, I want to tell you something. So I said, what do you want to tell me? He said, Swami told me that what is the problem, why is your daughter not willing to do Swami's work? So my father was a little upset with me. He said, are you saying that you won't do some work in the Sai organization? Why are you saying no? I said, no, I have not said no to anything. So he said, no, Swami just told me in Vrindavan that your daughter, what is the problem? Why is she not doing Swami's work? So I said, I don't know what he means. But anyway, put that aside, I don't know, I'll think about it. But I have a big problem. Now, my father never wanted to ask anything personal with Swami. So I had to put it to him in the way that he would ask Swami. So I said, look, I want you to ask Swami something for me. My father said, no, I don't ask all about personal stuff. So I said, no, this is not personal. See, this is where we try to find loopholes. I said, no, this is not personal. This is an organizational matter. So he said, what is it? So I said, they are asking me to speak in the regional retreat, and I'm not sure whether I should do that. Can you please ask Swami, when you are there behind him, walking behind him, can you please ask Swami? So my father immediately said, see, they are asking you to do Swami's work and you are saying no. What is there to ask Swami about this and bother him with these trivial matters? Go and speak, he said. I said, no, you must understand this regional retreat. 1,000 people come there. People like Dr. Hislop and Dr. Goldstein and all of these people have spoken there. So it's not just some ordinary place, I can't go and speak. So can you please tell Swami that a lot of people have spoken there. So my father said, no, I'm not going to ask him all those things. If he asks me, I will tell him. So this was the conversation. But the following day, my father called me again from Bangalore. He said, yesterday evening after dinner, Swami said, Padmanabh, you come with me for a ride in the car. And as soon as I saw it in the car, he said, now what is your daughter's problem? So my father said, Swami, they have asked her to speak. She's very nervous because, it's a very big retreat and all those things. So Swami said, to do bad things, you must be nervous. To talk about Swami, what is there to be nervous? She should go and speak. So my father said, you better go and speak there, Swami. So that's how I started. I spoke there in that regional retreat and I thought, okay, one job, it is over. I came in the following year to Vrindavan. Swami was here and he called me in there and I said, Swami asked me, did you speak there? He asked. Yes, Swami, I spoke, Swami. It's one-time job, it's over. So I said, Swami, I spoke. That's all, Swami. That's all the experiences I have. I have told all the experiences. That's enough, right, Swami? So Swami said, oh, so you are thinking you are doing the speaking. He said. And then he said, you are just a tape recorder. Nenu on cheste matladu, off cheste normui, he said. If I turn you on, you speak. If I turn it off, keep your mouth shut. So I go all over the map when I'm speaking, and after that I never prepare my talks because I don't want to make his life easy. I don't want him to say, you prepared, so I happily relaxed. So we will let Swami lead me wherever I go. So anyway, I started to realize that Swami is everywhere in so many different ways. Even though Swami, so many times in the discourses, he used to say, if you have all heard his discourses or listened to it through videos and other ways, intane kantane jantane untane eppudu untunnano, he used to say that, but we just listen and say how beautifully Swami rhymes the words, not realizing that he truly means it. Unlike me, who told my sons Swami's seat, but Swami truly means it. So what happened, I want to tell you, I learned so many little lessons, and he introduced me very nicely, kindly. Thank you for the nice introduction. In this place, I used to bring my first Balavikas children to see Swami from our class. I have one of my old Balavikas student sitting also here, who is, I think, the warden for the nursing school now. So nice to have her. So we used to come here regularly, and I used to do the Balavikas classes in my parents' house when I was quite young. So one of the lessons that I learned in this process, or learning in this process, Swami was to come to my parents' house for dinner one evening. So I told my Balavikas children, all of you, you come on that day to my parents' house. You can have Swami's darshan there and you can all have dinner. Make sure you tell your parents that you are going to be late. Swami will be here. So the children were very excited about it. Now in this group, there was a young boy called Srinivasa, who happened to be the son of the maid of our neighbor. We had a neighbor, she had a maid, and this boy used to come with the mother to the house while she was working. Now that owner of that house, she didn't want a small child in the house while the mother was working. So she used to tell the maid, don't bring your son. He was a little fellow, 8 or 7 years old. So the lady came and asked my mother, Amma, when I'm working in their house, can my son attend your Balavikas? You seem to be teaching some bhajans and stories and all that. Can he attend? So my mother said, sure, he can attend. So that little fellow used to come mainly for the prasadam that used to be distributed in the end. As soon as he comes, he will say, what is the prasadam akka? What is the prasadam akka? I'll say, you sit down, you do all the slokas and stories, we will get prasadam in that small chap. So he was in my class, and over 2 or 3 years he was there, and he learnt everything very beautifully, all the songs and the bhajans and everything. So that day I told him, Srinivasa, today you make sure you come tomorrow. Swami is coming to our house, you can have his darshan. So that fellow was very excited. He was 9 years old. He said, that man, that God in the picture, he is going to come to your house. That God in the picture, he is going to come to your house. So yes, he is going to come to our house, you come. So this boy was very excited. He wanted to know, will there be good food after that? Very good food. You come. So the whole, the way Swami uses various things to get somebody. Anyway, the following day, this poor fellow wanted to come, but his mother wanted to go to a movie. She didn't want to come to work that day. So she said, no, you can't go to their house today, because that lady will ask, where is your mother? Because I'm not going to work. And you will tell her I have gone to the cinema. So you cannot go. So this boy begged, no, that man, that God that they have, which we light lamps and all, he is coming to their house. She didn't believe him. She thought some Ramakrishna picture is there, that man is coming to dinner. She didn't believe. Nobody is coming, you stay. So this boy cried. So they lived in a small little hut. She locked him into the hut and she went off to the movie. But this youngster wanted so much to come to the Balavikas that around that time, he somehow broke the glass of his hut and he escaped from there and he came to the class. I didn't know all these things. He came and sat down. All the children were sitting and he said, will he come, will he come? Yes, you sit quietly. So they were all seated in my father's house in the garage, so with all the mats and everything. Now what happened, everybody was seated and Swami came to our house and my father called me and said, strange thing, while we were coming, Swami told some lady on the road, go quickly to your house. And we came, that's what, Swami came to our house, he came and sat down. And then I said, Swami, can you please come and bless the Balavikas children? They are all sitting. He said, yes, I'll come. He talked to everybody for a few minutes, got up and came near the garage. He looked at all the children and suddenly turned to me and said, where is your Srinivasa? That little boy. So I said, he's here only, looked there, looked at the group, but that boy was not there. I said, Swami, he was here, he was sitting here very excitedly to watch you. So he said, lay there, where? All the children, where is he, where is he? We asked the children, they said, no, he was sitting here, he just went out. He said, his mother will scold me, I have to go, because Swami was late. By the time he finished darshan in Brindavan and came to our house, it was a little late. So he ran away, the boys, the other children told. Then Swami called me to the side and said, you see, being a Balavikas teacher does not mean just making the children sit there and you going inside. You have to be with the children. You don't know where your child is. You should have known, where is that boy? I was happily sitting inside with the rest of the family members waiting for Swami, leaving the children in the garage. That is not how you teach. You should have sat with the children. You don't know where that boy is. He was your responsibility while he was in your custody. You didn't take care. I said, yes, Swami, I don't know where. And I was also worried. Where did this little fellow go? Then Swami said, don't worry, that mother and son will come in a little while. You sit down, he told. So I said, sure enough, by the time Swami finished talking to everybody, went inside, had dinner and came out, we suddenly hear some noise in the garage and this lady, that maid, that mother, and this boy have both come. And look at the beauty of this thing. This boy has gone home because he was scared of his mother. He came out of the window, remember? He went there. What has happened when he went there? His hut has caught fire. And he saw this hut as thing. If that child had been inside that hut, he would have also been, because the mother had locked, he would have been burnt. Somehow Swami got him out of there so that he had escaped. And while coming to our house, this mother was walking home. He said, you better go to your house. He stopped the car while my father was driving and said, you better go to your house is on fire. That lady came running thinking of her child in the hut. Luckily, the child had escaped. So that mother said, how did you escape? I locked you. He said, I don't know. I felt an urge to go to that Balavikas. So I went through the window. So she said, see, he somehow saved you. Come, let us go back and see if Swami is still there. So mother and son came running. Swami blessed the mother, gave him some vibhuti. Study well, he said, smacked him a little bit gently on his cheek. Study well, be good, he told the boy. That was the end of the visit. This was many, many years ago. 1978 or 77, I think. Imagine, so many years ago, this boy was a 10-year-old fellow. In 2006, I'm giving you a long story only to tell you how Swami knows every part of our life. Even though for those of you who may have come recently, who have not seen him closely, he knows each and every one of us. I was in Puttaparthi in 2006. I was sitting in the darshan line. I had just come from the US. My mother and I were sitting. Swami came out for darshan. Again he asked me, Eppodocha, when did you come? I said, Swami, just now. I am going to Kodaikanal, you come there, he told me. And he continued on the darshan. So we came to Bangalore. Sure enough, after 2 days, Swami went to Kodaikanal. We got the news. So my mother and I decided, after a couple of days, let us go to Kodaikanal. We tried to get some accommodation, but all the hotels were full because Swami had gone there. So my mother and I said, we'll see. Swami said, come. He will find us a way, we thought. We went to Kodaikanal. By the time we arrived there, it was in the afternoon, about 2 o'clock, the 1:30 or so, the gates were closed. Naturally, Swami was inside the mandir, inside his building. Sevadal people were near the gate and people were lining up to get inside for darshan. We stood there and we said, maybe we will see if we can find somebody who can tell us if there's any accommodation, or we will go through the gate. We were standing there. Suddenly that inside there was one gate, it opened and one man started to run, he was wearing a blue scarf, he was a Sevadal person. He started to run, so naturally the Sevadal people near the gate got alert. They thought maybe Swami is coming. So they got alert, opened the gate, he came out, came running outside, looked around. My mother and I were standing in the back of the crowd, and suddenly this gentleman came and fell flat at my feet while my elderly mother is standing next to me. We thought he has tripped and fallen down. So I said, get up, are you okay? Then he got up, then he stood up and falls again at my mother's feet. I said, okay, there's really some problem happening here. Standing. Then he says, Akka, you don't recognize me. I said, I'm sorry, very sorry, we don't know who you are, and first of all, Swami, we are more interested in going for darshan. Why are you coming outside the gate and falling here in front of us, He said, no, you have forgotten. My name is Srinivasa. I said, which Srinivasa? We don't know. Why you have forgotten? I used to come to your Balavikas. Oh, immediately I remembered, you are the Srinivasa who came out of the hut? No, this is a nice looking gentleman who has grown wearing Sevadal scarf and all that. He said, yes. After your Balavikas got over, I joined school, college continued. With Swami's grace, I got scholarship. I studied. Now I am the manager in Canara Bank, State Bank of India in Coimbatore. When Swami comes to Kodaikanal, it was our Seva, I'm in the Sevadal there. It was our duty, and this time I got the good fortune of guarding outside Swami's room. So I came to Kodaikanal, past few days I have been here. So I said, why did you come running out? Like, how did you know we were here? No, Akka, inside just now, Swami suddenly opened the bedroom, his room door, came outside and said, your Guru has come, go and find her a room to stay. He didn't know which Guru Swami is talking about. Your teacher has come, go and find her a room. He came running outside to see, he thought maybe his high school teacher or college lecturer, somebody has come. He comes and he sees my mother and me. He actually didn't recognize me. He saw my mother, who looked somewhat the same. I have changed over 30 years. So, he guessed that it must be my mother and myself. Said, Amma, Swami has told for you to go to that one particular room, that time you please go. So we went. So surprised. Finished, we went there, kept our luggage, changed our sari, went and sat for darshan in Kodaikanal. Swami came out, he was in a wheelchair, he came out in the wheelchair. He looks at my mother, Shishunni chusava? He asked, did you see your student? Yes, Swami, I saw. Did he give you the room? Yes, Enjoy the bhajan, he said and went. But look at the time lag. 30 years ago, this child had been in my care. He taught me how I should be a teacher. And 30 years later, he gave the opportunity to this young man to come and find us. So sometimes we say, many times, we prayed to Swami, nothing happened. We keep on praying, no answers. So Swami's time frame, we don't understand. It's a long road, and somewhere along that road we will realize that he is taking us in a journey. I want to tell you something very nice. You might be wondering about this boy that saw Swami. I was teaching kindergarten in the US for many years. So when I was there teaching, suddenly one year a couple of the teachers came and told me, I was teaching kindergarten. Some of you may have heard this story, but somehow again this is where Swami is taking me. So this teachers came and told me, Geeta, all your philosophy about love the children, they are your prema putras, all that doesn't work. Wait, this year in September, you're going to get a student and he's going to make your life miserable. This was the warning I got from the teachers from the 4-year-old classroom. So I laughed. I said, this child who comes to me is 5 years and 10 months old. How much mischief can a child learn in 5 years, If he's 15 years, at least the world has entered him. In 5 years, he has hardly lived. No child is going to. Because I always used to say that Swami says, your Balavika's children are your Prema Putras, your children that you have chosen for yourself. You don't have them because you wanted to have children, but you have chosen to have these children. So I always used to say, no, these are all my children, So they said, no, you wait. You've got something coming your way. Sure enough, September 4th, school reopened. That's in the US, our school year begins in September. School reopened. I was waiting at the door to welcome all my new children, lovely little 5-year-olds. This child comes in, and he comes in with a bang. And how is that bang? He picks up a chair and throws it across the room and breaks the window. That was his entry into my life. With a bang. So, from that day on, it was day after day after day of disaster. This boy will take the wooden blocks that you have in the classroom for building and beat the children with the blocks. This boy will take little plastic things and use the edge to cut somebody's hand. So every day became a problematic day for me. And every day I would talk to his family. He came from a broken family. Father and mother were divorced. The child was being used by the parents. The mother will give whatever you want, I will give you if you say mean things about the father. Father will say, if you say mean things about the mother, I'll give you whatever you want. So this child had become a violent child. Very smart, very intelligent, very good looking, very verbal, could speak very well, but very violent. So every day a child in my class was getting hurt. Every day I would talk to the mother. She would say, I know, please bear with him. He's going for counseling. Imagine, small fellow going for counseling. He's going for counseling. We hope to make him better. Please bear. So this went on, but slowly as the days went by, my reputation as a teacher was going down the tubes, because every day one child is hurt in my class. And the parent of that hurt child is up in arms. What is going on? You have no control over your classroom. The children are getting hurt. The child is getting beaten. He would use foul language. So the days went by. Whatever I tried, talking to the mother, father, to the director of our school, nothing worked. So one day, I used to come home and complain to my husband every day. And my husband, who is an operations engineer for NASA, his only solution was, if you don't like it, quit. Don't tell me your problems. So this was the solution, and it wasn't a solution that I could take because Swami had asked me to teach. So this went on for a while, and one day, one Thursday evening, I was lighting the lamps in front of Swami's picture, and I got very upset because that particular day had been a very difficult one. He had hit a child with a wooden block, and we had to call the ambulance, and the child needed 6 stitches on his forehead. So that day I looked at Swami's picture. Don't for a moment think that he's not sitting right there, right now, listening. I looked at that picture and I said, Swami, I can't do this. You asked me to be a teacher. I can't do this anymore. You said these are my prema putras. Forget about prema. I don't even like this child. I would think some days all the children in the class got chicken pox. Only this child didn't get chicken pox. Not even a single day he got a cold or a cough, or no break from this boy. So I said, I don't have, really there is no harmony in thought, word and action. I will smile at him and all that, but I'm thinking, my God, can't this child take one day break and leave me alone? I can't do this anymore. Tomorrow I'm going to resign my job. I can't, I'm getting a bad name in the school. Like he just introduced 5 times award. For what? I'm getting a bad name in the school. I don't know how to deal with this child. So I wrote my resignation letter, put it in front of Swami's picture in my altar, and took it with me next day, thinking I will give it to the school director as soon as I go. But Swami has his own plan. The day I walked in, the director was very busy with the inspectors. The school inspectors come. She was very busy, so I couldn't talk to her. I went into the classroom. And I made a challenge, and I said, Swami, you told me to teach. You are my guru. You are my teacher. Remember, Swami, if I fail, you fail. Because you are my teacher. You didn't teach me how to handle this kind of problems, All this I spoke to his picture very vehemently. Went, took the letter. It is in my purse. Sure enough, I had a beautiful room that I touched. All the 3 sides of my room had glass windows. So as soon as her red car is parked, I know this boy has arrived, the mother's car. So I could see, oh, he has come. He walked in and came through the door. Hi, Miss Geeta, he said. And I said, hi. How do you like my clothes, Miss Geeta? Do I look handsome? Very, very bright chap. So I looked at him, he's wearing some clothes. No harmony in thought, word and action. I'm thinking, who cares, whether you look good or not. But I said, oh, you look very handsome today. But this is where divine thought comes in. Without thinking, the words that came out of my mouth, I said, it is not enough to be handsome on the outside. You have to be handsome inside. He looked at me for a second. Now, being handsome was very important to this child. So he looked at me and said, walked away, and I'm waiting near the door to welcome the other children. 8 o'clock in the morning, all the children are coming. You're very busy. The parents are asking you some question. 1 year is waiting for some wooden block to be thrown or some child to cry. Somebody hit me, somebody bit me. I'm waiting for that. Nothing happened. He came back. I want to ask you a question, he said. Oh, what is it? What does being handsome inside mean? And for a split second, I'm thinking, what does that mean? Even to myself, I don't know, I just said it. What does that mean? So then I said, you think on your feet. So I said, oh, that just means you got to be really good. He said, oh, what does that mean? He doesn't know what being good is, right? What does that mean? I said, wow, this child for the first time is actually listening to what I have to say. So I started to give him a long lecture. Big mistake, right? Nobody wants to listen to long lectures. I started to give him a long lecture. I said, oh, that means, you shouldn't hit anybody, you shouldn't bite anybody, you shouldn't say bad words, you shouldn't do all these things. That's what it means. So he looked at me like I was crazy and he said, wow, being handsome inside sucks. He said, I don't want to be handsome inside. He walks away. I think, okay, that didn't work, whatever. So I went on, but throughout the day, this is what Swami says, that I am inside everybody. Somehow the Sai within me connected to the Sai within that boy. Somehow that moment, Swami decided to enter that child in a different way. So the day went by unusually quiet. Nobody's crying. We're not calling the ambulance. We're not calling 911. We're actually doing something in the class that's worth doing. And we have a recess to go outside in the playground. And we're outside and he comes back and says, do I have to be handsome when we come outside to play? I said, you bet, you got to be handsome all the time. Okay, this boy has heard. So somehow something changed that day. The day got over. The director was still not available. My resignation letter is still in my purse. And I came home. I said, okay, somehow today Swami didn't give me the opportunity to give that resignation letter. I'll do it tomorrow. The next day I go, the director has taken 1 week off. Holiday. She's gone on a vacation. So I said, okay, I guess I'm going to have to work for 1 more week. But this child comes that morning and she says, well, being handsome is really boring, but I'll try. So it started, and that 1 week, something happened, the child changed, to the point when he not only understood it, he thought about it, he integrated it within himself, and suddenly the following day, mother calls me and says, Miss Geeta, can you explain this? This child told the counselor, I got to go to Miss Geeta's class and be really handsome all the time. So the counselor didn't understand what this was. She thought I was saying that the child should come in brand name clothes or something, So the mother said, what does that mean? So I said, look, I said this, it seems to be working, so just keep telling him to be handsome, okay? You do it at home, I'll do it in school, counselor do it in her counseling sessions. So 3-4 days, 5th day, the child comes to me and says, Miss Geeta, come here, I got to tell you something. I said, what is it? 2 kids over there not being handsome in the playground. He's hitting him. So, he understood it. He's applying it to himself and he's applying it to the environment around him. And I went home, took out my resignation letter and put it in the trash can. Okay, Swami? I recognize your hand in this. And so the child changed, became a beautiful boy. September through June, grew and blossomed, left my class and went into 1st grade. Years went by, 3 years went by, 4 years went by. 4 years went by and suddenly he's gone now into the public school system. Suddenly in December, he's a 5th grader. And he comes during Christmas time with a big bunch of roses with his mother. And he's grown taller than me. He's almost 5'8" or 5'9" now. And he comes there and he says, Miss Geeta, come here. I got to tell you something. I didn't even recognize him. I said, oh, my goodness, you've grown taller. He says, yeah, it's nice to look down on you now. I said, what are you doing? He said, no, I came to tell you something and I came to give you some roses today for Christmas. I said, oh, that's really nice. So he said, you know, I have a new job in my school. So I said, oh, what's the new job at school? So he says, well, I'm the conflict resolver in the playground. I'm the conflict resolver. So when I grow up, I want to study to do conflict resolution. So I can help children like me, Miss Geeta. What a lovely end to that story. 5 years have gone by, 6 years have gone by. One day again in Puttaparthi, I have the good fortune of being sitting in front of Swami in the room at his feet. And he asked me, how is the school? How is the teaching? Swami, I used to tell him everything. Every time he asked me about my school, Swami, in fact, he used to even know some of the names of my children, in the school. Then he said, hey, how is that rowdy? How is that rowdy? Swami has grown up now. He's almost going to go to middle school now. He says, if you fail as a teacher, I have also failed, is it not? That's what I had told his picture 6 years ago when I wrote that resignation letter. But I apply it to myself. Swami has been a guru to all of us for so many years, so many discourses, birthday, Shivaratri, Guru Purnima, how many discourses has he given his messages, and how much he hopes that we don't make him a failure in our practice. If we don't practice, we make him a failure. That is what I tried to learn from that lesson. The omnipresent thread running through my life beautifully. Whatever Swami said, he kept his word. Whatever he said, he kept his word. That was another thing I learned. If you tell somebody, I'll do something for you, do it. If you can't do it, don't promise it. Very simple. Very simple. I brought a group of Bal Vikas children here in this Sai Ramesh Hall many years ago. Little bit different. There was a tree. Swami used to sit under the tree. For those of you who have not been there at that time, and you may have seen it in pictures, I brought a group of Bal Vikas children, and it was going to be Ishwaramma Day. So we were going to have a program, and our children were supposed to do a program. This was many years ago. There was one child in my class called Manorama. She was very good at doing mono acting. You all know what mono acting is, isn't it? You wear many hats. You do many roles. Single person does many characters. She was very good at that. Swami came and he asked me, what is your program? I told him, we are doing this, this and this. And then I said, there is one young girl, Swami, she will do mono acting of Bhakta Prahalada. That incident where the child and the father have an argument about where is Sri Hari. He said, okay, very good, very good. So that day some important VIPs had come from Delhi. The children's program went very well. Swami came and told me, I will send these people away, I will come back, you keep the children, I will give them something. You wait, he told, wait. So we all sat and waited. Now this child, the parents were not devotees, they were both doctors. They also had come to the program. They were Bengalis. They said, Geeta, we cannot wait anymore, we have to go back. So please allow us to take Manorama. I told them, no, no, please don't take her. Swami has said to wait. He'll give namaskaram, Pada namaskaram to all the children. Please wait, she will miss that wonderful opportunity. They said, no, no, we have to go. They were not devotees. They said, it's all right, let the other children take Pada namaskaram, they said, and they left. So Swami, after almost half an hour, came outside and he brought some box of pens, to give the children, and saris to these young children and some pant material for the boys. He came and stood right here and started to distribute. He looked at children. He asked me, where is that girl who did the mono acting? Because she was missing and she had done a fantastic job. So I said, Swami, the parents took her and went away. Velipoinda, she went away. I brought this sari and the pen. Yes, Swami. I said, I will give it to her, Swami. I said, no, lost her chance. Not now. Lost her chance. Sometimes Swami gives us a window of opportunity. We should not lose it. So lost her chance. So he didn't give it to me, he took it away. So it went on, and the next Sunday when we had Bal Vikas, all the children said, "Oh, Swami asked about you. You didn't get the sari, you didn't." And the poor child cried, because of the parents she had to go away. I said, "Don't worry, Manorama. Someday Swami will bless you. Don't worry." Again, I just said it. Someday Swami will bless you. So many years went by, almost 7 or 8 years. That girl finished Bal Vikas in our class, moved on into college. The parents moved from Jayanagar, where we lived, to some other area. I completely lost touch with this child because the parents were not devotees. I didn't see them in Brindavan or anywhere. Almost 7 or 8 years later, there was another Ishwaramma Day program going on here. I was also sitting with the children. Swami came and started to distribute something to the children. And then he called me. They were doing 3 or 4 days program in those days, the Ishwaramma Day here. So Swami, the next day I think there was children's bhajan or something, I don't recollect. So Swami looked at me and said, "Where is that mono acting girl?" 6 or 7 years later. So I said, "I don't know, Swami, she has moved away now. The parents have moved away. She's not coming to Bal Vikas. They have moved away, Swami." Almost 6 years later. So he said, "Bring her tomorrow," he said. Where am I supposed to bring her from? I don't know where she is. So I'm looking at him saying, "Swami," he gives me an address in Malleshwaram. He says, "This address in Sampige Road, you go and bring her, she's there." So that day, my mother and I go in search of this address. We find the parents who are doctors in a beautiful home. This girl is now in first PUC, grown up and gone to Vaspri University. So we tell the parents, "Look, Swami has asked for her. Can you please send your daughter with us tomorrow? I'll take her to Brindavan." They were very happy. They said, "Sure, she can go. She's a big girl now." They said. So this girl came. We all sad. Swami comes again. The next day also he's distributing something. He calls me, "Did you bring that girl?" I said, "Yes." He gives her the sari and the pens which he had given those children. "You may have forgotten. I have not forgotten you. I wanted to give it to you myself. I didn't want to send it with your teacher," he said, and gave it that day to that girl. So these are the beautiful, sweet moments where Swami's divinity and humanness both linking together, the motherly love and the divine love linking together, that I watched and absorbed, and I hoped I learned a little bit from that. This is a beautiful place. So many different things. Now I see a lot of you young people sitting here. This was the hall that I got married in. I think I should tell you that. How Swami did this whole drama with us. Our Mrs. Sucharita here is the SSC Bal Vikas coordinator for the state is here. At that time my mother was the Bal Vikas coordinator for Karnataka state. And I was one of the trainers to go whenever they did Bal Vikas refresher camps. Now what happened, I had finished college. Swami had come to my father's house. I had gotten a seat to do my masters in child development. So I said, "Swami, I got seat for MSc. Can I do MSc, Swami?" "MSc na, MRS," he told me. So what is that? MRS ante telidu? Mrs., he said. So he pulled the stone over MSc. Because I'm thinking, what is this new course that Swami is telling? Then, so I said, "Swami, suddenly I have just completed my BS degree in child development. What am I supposed to do?" "Montessori course chahi," he said. "Do Montessori course." So all right, I joined the Montessori course. And while all of this thing is going on, my aunt, who was in Delhi at that time, wrote a letter to my parents saying that, "I know a Sai devotee family here in Delhi. They have a son who is working in Bangalore. I know that Geeta always says she wants to marry a Sai devotee. So maybe you people can, look for this alliance kind of thing." That's what parents are doing when the girls are, of that age. So my Swami was in Brindavan and we were coming on a Thursday here to Whitefield. And my father said my father had that letter in his pocket, and he said, "I will ask Swami whether to pursue this alliance, So I was a very bratty creature, so I said, no. My father was a man of few words. He will go inside Brindavan, He will talk to Swami for 1 hour or whatever it is, and when you come outside, he will tell you, oh, Swami, anta chapre, anta bagunaranta. 2 sentences he will tell for the 1 hour interview, you know. So I told him, look, if you go and ask Swami, you will not come and tell us what Swami said properly. So Swami has to tell me. If he tells you, I am not going to agree for all this alliance and all that. So my father said, you think Swami has no other job only to talk about your marriage? He has got so much work. At that time the college had just started here also. So Swami is very busy with the college boys and all those things. And first of all, you are a young girl. He will not talk about your marriage to you. He will talk to the parents. Don't expect Swami to come and tell you. So I was even more irritated, you know, with my father. I said, no, that's not going to work. I am the one who is to marry, isn't it? So if Swami wants me to get married to this guy, he has to come and tell me. So my father said he has no time. So I, forgetting, intane, kantane, jentane, ventane untunnanu, he is always saying, I am behind you, besides you, listening to everything you are saying, forgotten again, for the 100th time. So I said, I can't help it, he is Bhagwan, he is God, he should know how to manage his time. If he has time in his hands, he should know. Kalaya tasmai namaha, right? He should know how to. It's not my problem, he has to tell. So my father got very angry with me. He said, you are becoming worse by the day. That is why these days educating young girls and all that, one long lecture I got all the way from NAL to Brindavan. That is the route. So we arrived here, my mother and I, it was raining that day. There was a tree. You know, this Lord Krishna, the other one was under the tree. Everybody was huddled under the tree doing bhajan. And some Sevadal was coming out and saying, today there is no darshan because of the rain. So my mother and I just stood near the tree. My father went inside. He had the wonderful privilege of going inside. He just started to walk towards the gate. But before he had reached that gate, the gate opened. Swami came out in the car. And we had this lovely surprise of Swami going round and round around the tree, giving darshan to everybody from the car, because it was raining. He didn't get out. Just went round and round. Then suddenly he called my mother and I. We were standing a little further away because we had just arrived. Come here, he called. So we both went. Swami got out of the car under the shed of that tree. And he came out, and in front of all these people who are seriously singing Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Satyanam, Satyanam Bhajan, he holds my ear like this, catches my ear in front of the whole general public, you know, and says, aha, నీకే చెప్పాలి నువ్వు కదా పెళ్లి చేసుకుంటున్నావు you are the one who is getting married I have to tell you Padmanabh will not come and tell you I must learn how to manage my time because your time is very important get you married he looks at my mother and says phone up that boy's family and ask them to come on Sunday I will settle the marriage you don't know who the boy is we don't know his name. Who is the family? Some letter my aunt has written saying there is some Sai devotee here. They have a son in Bangalore. Swami said, you call them. So my father said, we don't know who they are. And you call your sister and find out. Swami says, finishes the darshan in the car and goes back inside. My mother desperately saying, Swami, no Swami, tomorrow we are going to Mangalore. There is a Balavika's Guru's training camp. She is one of the speakers for the training. We are going there. How are we going to bring the boys' family here? You know, this Divine Mother, nu poi inaugurate chesi vache. He said, you go, start the camp and come back. My mother said, Swami, she is one of the speakers. You give it to Sunandamma, her topic. Sunandamma, her daughter is here. Sitting, her son is one of your old alumni. Wonderful lady. Did lot of work, Swami's work with dedication for Balavikas. Give Sunandamma her topic. Then he looks at me. He tells my mother, night bus lo anta pote chala tired ga unte abbai oppukodu. He goes in the night bus. She looks very tired when she comes back. The boy won't agree to marry her. He's protecting my looks, making sure my marriage is set. So my mother goes to Mangalore, does the inauguration, comes back. In the meantime, I'm in Bangalore with my father. My father has the unenviable task of having to locate some boy's parents in New Delhi and tell them to come to Brindavan to settle the marriage. We don't even know who they are. So my father calls my aunt in Delhi and says, look, Swami is saying like this, can you give? My aunt got very scared. She said, I haven't even told them I have a niece. I just wrote the letter. How can I tell them all this? I will give you the number, you call. So my father on that Thursday night, he calls these people. My father-in-law is Dr. V.N.S. Murthy. So he calls him and introduces himself. My name is Dr. Padmanabhan. We are Sai devotees. I believe you are Sai devotees. He was very friendly. He said, yes, a Sai devotee. I believe you have a son in Bangalore. Swami is asking you to please come to Vrindavan so he can settle my daughter's marriage with your son. They are stunned beyond belief. He said, we don't know who you are, first of all. We don't know who your daughter is. And our son is in Bangalore, we have to ask him. So my father said, please consult with your son. Because tomorrow morning I have to go to Vrindavan. Swami will ask me, did I call you? They said, no, please give us 1 hour. Let me telephone my son. So they called their son. I think they were even more shocked by his response. He said, they called him up and said, some gentleman from Bangalore is saying that Swami wants you to marry some girl, you know. He listens to the whole story and he says, well, if Swami told them that, I'll marry her. Who is she? So no, Swami is saying to come on Sunday. So they call back and said, my son said this. He said, he will marry your daughter. We don't know her. So they exchange a few pleasantries. Then my father said, you please come on Sunday morning. Swami wants to see you on Sunday afternoon. So all this Mangalore business, my mother finishes and comes. Sunday we arrive, they arrive. Swami has told us ahead of time to meet him here in Vrindavan. We go inside. I'm giving you a long story to give you a different facet of Swami. How he teaches with so much love, you know. The fact that I said, Swami, I will do whatever you say, led him to take that much interest, is what I think. That if we surrender to him, he will take care of all our interests. So anyway, he came and Swami talked to all of this. Swami did the job of introducing, this is Murthy, this is Padmanabhan, this is a soil doctor, this is a pallu doctor, a dental surgeon, my father. This one is a soil, my father-in-law has a PhD in soil mechanics, soil, mannu doctor, pallu doctor is. Then he asked them, are you all agreeable for this marriage? And this girl has grown up here in Swami's umbrella. They are all saying whatever you say. After all this, you know, I am the troublesome creature. There were a whole bunch of rose plants, old building of Vrindavan, not even Trai Vrindavan, before that building. You may have seen the pictures. He said, come with me. He called me. So I went. He called me. Did you see the boy? So now this is a double-edged sword. If you say yes, hey, Abbayalani chustuna, are you looking at the boys? He will ask. If I say no, I won't be telling the truth. So silence is the best policy. Keep quiet. So he said, did you see the boy? So I was kept quiet. Will you marry him? Yes. No, Swami, whatever you say, I will do that, Swami. No, you tell me. Are you willing to marry him? No, Swami, whatever you tell me, I will do. Then he told me a beautiful thing, which is what this long story is about. He said, you see, you can see the outside of the person. I can see the inside of a person. If you marry him, he will bring you nearer and dearer to Swami because he is a God-fearing man. My only mantra, whatever you say, I will do, Swami. Then he said, look, this is the beauty of the Guru and the Mother. He gave me the message. He told me that I know more than you. He told me that, but then he switched his role. He said, you see, if you don't like the boy, you don't have to be afraid of all those elders there standing, you know, my parents and aunt. Don't have to worry about them. If you don't like the boy, you tell me now. Because once you go there and commit, there is no question of going back. Commitment is for life. So, once you commit, no going back. But if you don't like the boy, you tell me now. I will go back and tell them, I don't like the boy. You don't have to be scared. I will tell them I decided against the man. No, Swami, whatever you say. Then all right, he came back, he fixed the marriage over some date here in December in Kalyana Mandap. After my birthday celebrations, we will do this, he said. And he went away to Puttaparthi, Swami, for the global Akhanda Bhajan, which Swami had now turned it into a global Akhanda Bhajan. my old family members who all started it are here today. But Swami made that into a global Akhanda Bhajan. At that time, my mother and my aunt, I have to remember her, who played a big role in making me understand how wondrous this divine being that we had the good fortune of seeing. My aunt, Sundaramma. She is the mother of our state coordinator now of SSC. She's here and I'm proud to talk about her mother in front of her. Both of them are here, her daughters. That lady who was like the matriarch of our family, who taught my father how to be aware and be alert around Swami. Padana, she would say, always keep watching Swami. With an eyelid, he will tell you what to do. So my father learnt from her. We all went to Puttaparthi to take the permission for the marriage because boys, you may all be using that hostel, the second hostel there. That hostel was just built and Swami said, for the marriage, you all use the hostel, let the auspicious ceremony of the marriage get over, then the boys can occupy that hostel. So those of you who are occupying that hostel, my marriage ceremony preparations was in your hostel in 1978, just to give you the history of your building. But anyway, we went to Puttaparthi during Global Akhanda Bhajan. My aunt said, before we do anything, we must have a list and we must get Swami's permission for everything. So they wrote down everything. The rangoli, what type of rangoli, from the hall to the Swami's building, who are the cooks, what is the menu, who are the wedding guests, everything written down. My mother had a list, we went to Puttaparthi. You see how young girls may want to learn that it is good to listen to our elders, because they have our best interest at heart. So we were all, Swami had told us, I will see you tomorrow morning. So the next day morning, we were all ready with our list and this and that. I wore a very simple synthetic sari to go. And we knew that Swami was going to talk to us. My aunt Sundaramma, she looked at me and she said, why are you wearing this sari? It is too simple, you are the bride to be. You should wear a nice sari and come. I said, no, auntie, everybody will see. The whole Puttaparthi will come to know I am getting married, Because young girl wearing one jerry sari and going, I don't want to wear. He said, no. When you go to see the Lord, you must dress appropriately. But I didn't listen to her. I said, no, auntie. And I whined to my mother also, no, please tell Sundaramma auntie not to force me. I don't want to change my sari. So they both gave up. What can you say? They didn't want to make it into a negative thing. So we went. Swami surely called us for an interview. We were sitting down. My mother has her list and my aunt has her list to ask. She was the one who was advising us how to go about. Suddenly Swami looked around the room. Hey, me pelli kuttru raleda? He asked. Didn't the bride come? I'm sitting right there. So, this is the time when it was, okay, what's going on here, So, Sundaramma auntie said, this is the bride, Swami. She's sitting right here. Oh, what is this sari she's wearing? This is the sari to wear? Your marriage is within 3 weeks. So, they were all very mature adults. They didn't say, I told you so. I told you to wear the sari. See, you come here. Swami said, see, you're getting married in 3 weeks. You come looking so simple. Whole of Prashanti Nilayam knows I am performing the marriage in Brindavan. What will they think? You must think about your family name. They'll think, oh, they must have forced her to marry this boy. Swami must be forcing her to marry this boy. That is why this girl is sitting there like this with some old sari. To earn 2 meals a day is what Swami said. To earn 2 meals a day, to live in a house for shelter, and to wear some clothing, you go for an interview for a job. Even the birds do that. The birds find food, the birds build a nest. Right? For 2 meals a day and a house, for a job interview, baga suitu, bootu, anni veskonu veltaru. Wear a nice suit, you put on boots, you dress up yourself. Before, Swami was gesturing. You look in the glass before going inside to make sure your hair is okay. For 2 meals a day. To come and see the Lord who assures you of everything in your life. How should you come? How should you come? You should come dressed appropriately. Because not only are you seeing the Divine Lord, you are also projecting to the world whether you are a happy bride or an unhappy bride. By the way you walk, the way you talk. So that was one more lesson before the marriage. Marriage was over. Swami performed here for 2 days with the help of all friends and family. That evening after the marriage, he called us and he talked to all of us, blessed us. And again he called me. See, I am the problematic creature. My husband says he never told me anything. You were the problem. He had to ask you, do you like the boy? He never asked me, do you like the girl? He knows that I will agree. You're the problem. So he called me again and he asked me, Chudu, I have brought you up. I have settled your marriage. Eppudu puttinillu mettinillu. You should remember the house that you are born in and give a good name to the house that you are born in. Mettinillu, whichever home that you are entering, you should give a good name to that house. You should remember that. And then he gave me a beautiful sentence. He said, Chudu, the intonation in life is very important. Your in-laws, when they see you, there are 2 ways they can say. They can say, this is the girl that Swami gave us. No? They can say, this is the girl that Swami gave us. They can also say, this is the girl that Swami gave us. The intonation has changed. The meaning has changed. This is the girl that Swami has given us. This is the girl that... Swami said it beautifully in Telugu. He said, see, remember the intonation in your life. How you behave, how you talk, how you live with your in-laws. The intonation is what is important. So little lessons that he tried to teach, to lead in this world. Be aware, be alert, so that later on you become worthy enough to see Sai always in all. You have to first start with the Baba eyes and then only you can get to Sai. But you see how his love goes on. I want to tell you this wonderful incident that happened to me in Atlanta and in the US. And Swami acknowledged this beautifully. I want to tell you this because you may be thinking, okay, you had the opportunity to talk to Swami, to be with him, to see him. What about us who did not have that opportunity? Does he know me? Does he know who I am? Does he know where I live? And therefore I want to tell you this. Because again, the thread of this talk is omnipresence. Because Swami's beautiful physical form may have left us, but his energy is everywhere within us and around us. And when we became aware of that, our whole life changes. So I had to give a talk in Atlanta. And actually some old students of the first batch of the Satya Sai College here had organized the program. I went to the program, and after speaking for about an hour and a half, the program was over. Bhajan was beautiful. And they had a screen similar to this. And while I was speaking, they were showing some old videos of Brindavan and different videos. After my talk was over, few people were waiting to say hello to me or, just to say hello to me. I saw an African couple, husband and wife, standing and waiting for a while everybody was talking to me. And I knew that they were waiting, but I couldn't get away from the crowd to say hello to them. Then finally, after almost 15 minutes, they came to me and the lady held my hand. And she's 3 words, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's all she said. And I tried to talk to her. She just said, that's okay, thank you, she said. And she went away. Then these organizers said, Mrs. Geeta, please go home now. We'll all join you in a little while for dinner. We have to dismantle all the altar and everything. We will join you there. Please go. We will come, they said. So I went away with the host to their house. About half an hour later, these young people who had all dismantled the altar arrived there for dinner, late, about 8 o'clock in the evening. As soon as they came, they said, oh, you know what, we have to share this funny incident with you, they said. You see, many times we are so not aware and not alert that even when we see Swami's energy around us, we don't recognize it. Because we are not aware and alert. That's why I'm going back to that. So they came and said, I want to tell you something. Some funny incident happened. I said, oh, what funny incident? Said, do you remember that there was an African couple waiting to talk to you? I said, yes, they waited for a long time, but they didn't talk to me. They just said, thank you, and they left. So you know what they said? We were just taking the altar down. They came and they started to talk to us, but they talked to us in French. So we said, sorry, we don't know French. So then one of our friends, Louis, another gentleman in Atlanta, he said, I know a little bit of French. What do you need? So they started to talk to this Louis. You please tell these organizers that it was so wonderful. We come from Congo. We just moved to Atlanta a couple of months ago. We used to attend the Sai Center in Congo. Everything, all the proceedings were in French. And we used to enjoy the bhajans, we used to enjoy the discourses. But ever since we came to the US, all the programs are either our bhajans or the programs are in English. We don't know English. This was all being translated through Louis. So we didn't know English. Somebody from Congo called and said, look, there is a Sai program in Atlanta going on today. There is a Mrs. Geeta Ram. She's going to speak. Why don't you go? They told us. We said, what is the use of going there? We don't understand English. She will talk in English. What is the use? They said, no, you'll enjoy the bhajans. Why don't you go? You're missing Swami so much after you left Congo. Why don't you go? They said, okay, what's wrong? Let's just go. We came to this program. We want to thank you so much. Thank you for organizing such a beautiful talk in French. So these guys said, excuse me? She said, yes, she spoke so nicely, and we understood everything she told us. It's so nice that we could come, we listened to all Swami's glories. So this man said, which talk are you talking about? That lady didn't speak in French, she spoke in English. They said, no, there was translation going on in the screen, I think, for you people who know only English, but she spoke in French. So they all just laughed. Something is wrong with this African couple, So they came home and they told me, Mrs. Geeta, do you believe this? This is what they said. This crazy African couple, they thought that you're speaking in French and you spoke in English. I don't know, So we all laughed. We said, I don't know what, these Sai devotees nowadays, who knows, We laughed and finished. This was in April of 2002. In 2003, June, I came to Puttaparthi as usual. In June, I used to come because my schools closed for summer holidays. Came. Swami called me inside for interview. Sat down. Ekkadekada maatladutunnavu? He asked, where have you been speaking? So I told him, I went here, I went there, Swami. I spoke in Atlanta, Swami. Your old college students, they had organized. Chala baga French lo maatladtavule. Very beautifully you spoke in French. I looked at him, said, Amy, language of the heart. Those who yearn to listen to me, they will hear my stories in the way they need to hear. Who are you to think that you are talking about me? They were yearning to hear about Swami. They heard your talk in French. UK lo kuda Russian lo vinnaru, he said. I had gone to UK the previous year. In UK also they heard it in Russian, he said. I don't know. There may have been a Russian lady there. You see the beauty of Swami's divinity. We see him, we used to see him walking, talking. I'm there within you. Language of the heart, he says. We don't understand, do we, what he means by that. He's within all of us. He can connect to each one of us in his own way, in every possible way. He's everywhere with us. He knew that Congo couple. That's why I said, if you are thinking that he doesn't know you, he knows you. Be aware and be alert. He knows you. So beautifully he showed me that he knows each and every one of us. He knows each and every one of us. So I spoke in Texas. I want to tell you how through the lessons, small lessons, he taught me his omnipresence. I was speaking in Texas. Very, very hot summer it was. I wore a cotton sari. I was there. And my talk was in the afternoon. Brother Jagadishan, I don't know, you may have heard Jagadishan from Malaysia. He spoke in the morning. I was very much fascinated by his talk. I sat on the floor and I listened to his talk. In the afternoon, 4 o'clock, it was my talk. I finished, this is in September. Following June, again I'm there in Puttaparthi. Swami asked me, where did you speak? I said, Swami, I spoke in Texas. I know. Jagadishan spoke, is it not? Yes, Swami, Jagadishan, brother Jagadishan spoke. Suddenly he changed the topic and he says, when you go for your talks, don't you pack your clothes properly? What is this new thing, Pack my clothes? I don't know, I usually wear saris. But when Swami says something like that, we have to be aware, there is something going on. I said, I don't know, Swami, did I make a mistake? Blue cotton sari. He told me what cotton sari I was wearing. Blue cotton sari. Morning 8 o'clock, cut now. Wore it in the morning at 8 o'clock. Talk was in the afternoon, 4 o'clock. Sitting in the floor, sari is all crumpled. You stand up, your ankle is showing. The sari is crumpled. నేను కదా చూడాలి నీ కాలు. So I have to see your feet, ankles from behind sitting there. So that's why I'm standing like this. When you go for a talk, you should wear a silk sari. You should not look sloppy, not properly dressed, wearing unironed clothes. If they see that the disciple is like this, what will they think? The guru is also very sloppy. See how nicely my robe, nicely ironed, line is going. See, one day also my clothes are not crumpled. One day also. Should go properly dressed. Blue cotton sari. I still have that blue cotton sari. Because Swami remembered that sari. Ever present. Always behind us, besides us. How beautiful. Somebody just sang a beautiful bhajan a few minutes ago. I'm not recollecting the words right now. But I want to tell you this beautiful incident, brothers and sisters, all of us in this journey. I just want to tell you this because many of us, including myself, strongly, deeply miss that beautiful divine form that we were used to seeing for so many years. Swami always said, I am energy, I am energy. I remember once in the interview room when I asked him, Swami, does your leg hurt after the fall? I'm not body conscious, I'm energy, he said. But still, we miss that form because that form showed and showered so much of love. Every moment of his life was for others. Every moment that he spent was for others. He gave so much beautiful love to all of us. And therefore, I want to tell you that even though his physical presence is not here, he knows each one of us. And we have to carry his message so that he can feel that, yes, my presence, my restricting myself into a form from that energy, he restricted himself into that form so that he could be like us and be with us. It was worth it. That we have learned something that we can take forward with us. So I want to tell you this incident. Some of you may have heard it, but I do believe that I should reiterate it over and over again so that we can remember this message. Once I asked Swami, same thing, I have to repeat the same stories. Enduku? For 60 years I am telling the same thing. Still people are learning. Only for 5 years you have been talking, you are already bored. He said, 60 years I have been talking, I am still saying the same thing. I want to tell you, I went to New York for my 25th wedding anniversary to a Ganesha temple there. And in the evening, my husband and I, we bought tickets to a Broadway musical to go and see like a dance drama there. After going to the temple, I was in Indian clothes, salwar kameez I was wearing. I went to this program. And during the intermission, I just went to use the ladies' room. I came out of the ladies' room, there was a Hispanic lady of Spanish origin, cleaning up the bathroom, wiping. She kept looking at me a little. I felt a little uncomfortable because when somebody is staring at you, you feel a little uncomfortable. I was wondering why she was looking at me. I thought maybe because I was wearing Indian clothes. This was in New York. Suddenly she looked at me and she didn't know English very well. She said, you India? She asked me, are you from India? Are you India? She asked. I said, yes. Again, she went on doing her job. I was washing my hands. Suddenly she looks at me. She says, you know Sai Baba? Some woman cleaning the bathrooms in New York, and I live in Washington, D.C. So, yes, I know Sai. Immediately, your ears become alert. So, yes, I know Sai Baba. How do you know him? I don't know him, she says. Oh, then what's the point of this conversation, right? Why are you suddenly asking me? This is what I'm thinking. So she says, I want to ask you something. You got booty? She asked me. Like, what is booty? I said, I don't know what. White powder. For vibhuti, she's saying booty. You got white powder? I said, why do you want vibhuti? So see, past 4 days, my daughter, both her kidneys have failed. She's only 9 years old. She's in the hospital. So I'm thinking, we are so judgmental of people. I'm thinking, okay, the daughter's in the hospital. What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be in the hospital or something? She says, my daughter is in the hospital. She's very sick. Both her kidneys have failed. The doctors are saying she needs kidney transplant. Even if they do kidney transplant, I don't have money to pay because I don't have insurance. Without medical insurance, you can't pay in the US. I don't have insurance. So, I am a Catholic, she says very proudly. I pray to my Lord Jesus. Every day I am praying to my Lord Jesus. Help me, Lord Jesus, help me, help my daughter. Lord Jesus didn't come. But suddenly, 4 days ago, a man with curly hair and a orange dress, he came in my dream, she said. So I said, oh, what happened? He said, your daughter is very sick, I know. Indian lady will come, you ask for booty. Again she's saying booty. She says, who are you? In the dream, my name is Sai Baba. You ask for booty. So I woke up in the morning, I thought I'm going little cuckoo or some dream, I didn't bother about the dream. I went to work. Second day, same dream. India lady will come to your work, ask for booty, vibhuti. Again, she says, your daughter is sick, I know. Third day, same dream. Fourth day, same dream. No India lady here, she says. She works here in this big place in New York. No India lady. I thought I'm really going crazy. Today, I see you for the first time, India lady. So I ask you, you know Sai Baba? You say yes. I ask you, do you have booty? White powder? Suddenly, I had the recollection. This is in the month of December. In June that year, I had come to Prashanti Nilayam. My husband had not come. My children and I had come. Swami materialized vibhuti. And usually Swami used to say, eat it, eat it. That day, he gave me the vibhuti. He held my hand, said, wait, take it to America. So he held my hand and made me put all the vibhuti into that little white piece of paper that he used to have in the window of the interview room. Very lovingly folded it, gave it to me and said, take it to America. I thought, because my husband has not come, very sweetly he has given me the vibhuti for my husband. So I came to the room in Prashanti Nilayam, put it in my purse. This was all in June. I stayed for 3-4 weeks in Bangalore and I went back to America and I told my husband, Swami gave his interview, he has given you vibhuti. I opened my purse, that vibhuti packet is not there. Empty my purse, open all the zipper, take out all the pouches, no vibhuti. My husband got very upset. You get the interview, you don't even bring the vibhuti for me. What is this? So careless, So I don't know, I had it, I knew exactly, I put it in the zipper, it's not there. Maybe when I took out money or something, it has fallen out. We felt very bad that I had been careless with Swami's vibhuti. This had happened in June. Over. In December, this lady is asking me, do you have vibhuti? So I usually have vibhuti packet in my purse. I open my purse zipper thinking, okay, I hope I have a vibhuti packet to give this lady. I open it, right on top of my wallet, there is that little vibhuti packet that Swami had so lovingly folded. You see? I'm not sure. It looks like some. Slowly I opened it. Sure enough, it is the same thing, Swami. I knew that this was for her. It was not meant for my husband. Swami knew 6 months ahead of time. There was a mother who would be praying to that Lord Jesus for help for that child. I gave her the vibhuti. Here, this is yours. I came back. By the time the program has started, in the ladies' room, I spent 45 minutes there. Everybody is so angry. I had to cross all the people and go to my seat. Everybody is so upset. And I'm trying to tell my husband, what happened in there? He said, sure, stop talking here inside. So we keep quiet, the program finishes, we get into the car, we are driving back to Washington DC very excitedly. Of course, the rest of the program I never saw because my mind is so elated. In the car, I told my husband, first thing, you know what, remember that Vibhuti you told me I lost in June? I didn't really lose it, it wasn't meant for you. I wanted to make the point because he had been so upset with me, it wasn't meant for you. This happened, this lady was there again. So my husband, being a practical engineer, said, well, did you at least take that lady's number? Maybe we can tell some doctors in New York that we know, good friends, Sai devotees. Maybe they will help her. I said, no, Swami is already helping her. Who are we to help her? So I came back to Washington DC. Every day when I do my prayers, I used to say, Swami, please help that child. Somehow the Vibhuti has reached her. Please take her. And after a few days, the mundane daily life starts. You forget thinking about that lady. Days go by, months go by, finished. 2 years later, I come back to Prashanti Nilayam. As soon as I enter the interview room, Swami is still holding the door. He always used to close the door afterwards and come and sit down. He closed the door, turned on the fan, came and sat down and said, Pilla bagundi, kidney transplant ledu. Child is okay, no kidney transplant. No kidney transplant. 2 years. We sing Sarvadharma bhajans, don't we? In the bhajans, you are Allah, you are Jesus, you are Rama, you are Krishna, all names are yours. We just go on repeating in slow speed, fast speed, medium speed, with tabla, without tabla, with shruti, without shruti, without realizing all names are His. This Hispanic lady who never heard of Swami in her life called out to that Lord Jesus that she knew, and in the form of this beautiful Lord, her prayers were answered. Now the question comes, how come mine is not answered? Maybe we have to pray more intensely. Maybe we have to be more aware and more alert. Maybe we have to learn to see Sai always in all. Swami used to love these letters. I remember once there was a lady in our interview room. Her name was Joy. Swami asked her, what is your name? Joy, she said. Oh, Joy. What does that mean? So again she explained her name. It means happiness. No. It means bliss. No. Ananda Swami, she said. No. What is it, Swami? J, Jesus. O, others. Next. Y, yourself. Last. Jesus first, others next, yourself last. That is joy. When you do that, you will really become joy. Till then, you are just a name. How beautiful. Simple lessons to be learned, of course, learning at His feet. And as I said, we do miss His physical presence, but unless we take His message and transform ourselves to become Jesus first, others next, and ourselves last, unless we become aware and alert of all our thoughts, words and actions so that we can see Sai always in all, unless we do those things, He will always just be that 5-foot form that used to walk down and never the energy that surrounds us all the time. So I hope, boys and girls and respected elders, we will be suitable, blessed people who had the good fortune of seeing this divine being in our lifetime and be able to bring His words into our lives so that we can become joy and just not the name. Sai Ram.